everyone, I have a spring and Easter mega video for you to check out today. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. So let's go ahead and get into it. First, we're starting off with one of these houses from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to hit that a little bit with my heat gun to kind of loosen up that adhesive because I really don't want to destroy the whole thing, and I have a tendency to do that. So once I do that, I just kind of put my putty knife in there, pull that backing off, and I'm using the back side of it, and I just kind of needed that little blob of stuff to remove the stickers. And we're going to use kind of like the middle section of that paper because I didn't want the little spots that were supposed to be nails. We're just going to use our handy dandy glue stick. That is one of the big ones from Target. I think I stole it from my kids. We're just going to press that all down. And if I see, I'm just kind of wiggling around trying to get it to where it will look right, and I'll just kind of go back and forth and getting in the right spot off camera, apparently. Sorry about that. Once we're happy with where it is, I will smooth it all out, and on the back side, I'm going to actually add a piece of black chalkboard paper. Got that from Joann's on clearance, and I love it. It's really, really thick, and it works really well. We're going to use some of these rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. This is like the little reef that's part of it. I did use two reefs to make it big enough. And we're going to use our little bunny that's in, I believe, an 8-pack of the little wood rabbits from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to kind of just start to peel them off and start to place it. What I should have done was to do like one at a time. I did two on this first go around. I ended up doing two. And I know I've got a little bit of space in between, but we're going to use other leaf design things to fill it in. So that's like a little tip for you if you want a bigger area than what what you have available. Use the little extra pieces in the set to fill in. I'm not going to show you, step by step every single piece I put down, but basically all you're going to do is give a good rub on it, and this is going, rubbing it right onto paper. So I was a little nervous to use this set because like everybody loves them and they're hard to bind, and I was like, oh, I don't want to waste them. But I rubbed it down a little bit with my finger and then went in with like the back side of my little scrapey tool, my little silicone hot glue holder. And it worked really, really well. I used a couple of different things. At one point, I even tried to use like my Cricut scraper for stuff, and this worked way, way better. So we're just going to use that. And like I said, it just peels up. It gives it a much lighter effect. Here it is with all the pieces I've added to it. Like I said, I've added in a couple little sprigs here and there that was on there. Kind of pushing back and forth, putting my little rabbit piece on there to see where I would end up with, where I would want it. We're going to fill in the hole with some wood filler, and like magic, because I had more than one of them, they came in a pack of 8, I switch it out. I've used my antique wax on that with a baby wipe, and we're going to do a quick light like whitewash of it. I didn't want to do too much, but I wanted to, I definitely didn't want it too much because you wanted to be able to see the wood grain in it, but I wanted to give it a little dusting of the white. So you just a tiny little bit, just a touch. And then we're going to take our twine and we're going to give it a little bow. I believe in my inspiration, which I'll show you at the end, it actually had raffia. I don't happen to have any raffia on hand, and I like twine. When it comes down to it, I like twine. I glue it on the back just to keep it from moving around too much, and then I'll just make a little simple knot, and we'll do just a teeny tiny little shoestring bow. I don't want too much too big, so we're just gonna, fix it the way it looks nice. Tuck in those little tails so they're coming down to the bottom part of the bunny. Trim off. Oh no, that's right. I wanted it to sit a certain way, so I just kind of glued it down. Just a little tiny, bit of glue, just to make it sit the way I wanted it to. And here's our little bunny. I'm going to put him aside because we are going to make another bunny. I am going to use this for the back side of my little house because I was like, you know what? I think it'd be super cute to have this be reversible. And I'm going to add a different rub-on transfer. We're just going to use that word right there. That's home. There was a couple of different choices. Just that's the one that I was like, that looks cute. Let's use that. And same kind of way everything works. Cut out the way you want it. Or I'm saying the stencil that you want or rub-on transfer that you want, whatever we're calling this right now. You're just going to cut that off however wording you want, put it on, rub it on, peel off the backing, and here you go. Away you go, as they say. I'm just going to hot glue that little guy down to wherever is on here. And I haven't used this as chalkboard yet, but I'm anxious to try that out. I was going to try to like season it, but then I realized I don't have any white chalk. So I'll have to grab some of that the next time I go to the store. And we're going to glue our other bunny onto this side. And see, its ears and stuff are kind of covering up where the leaves look a little wonky. So now for the house, I did not want to give it like a full coat of the antique wax. I just wanted to darken it up a tiny little bit, and I really wanted to bring out a little bit more of that faux wood grain. I don't know, just something about it, like I wanted it to stay light because, you know, it is Easter time, it is springtime, everything is really light and just natural, and you know, maybe a little bit of pastels mixed in. I think will look really, really pretty with this particular house. I have to say, this project I was so proud of myself on, you know, the final result that you'll see here in a minute. Even my husband's like, oh, that looks like you bought it. I was like, well, I've never gotten that compliment before from you. I'll take it. So, like I said, we're going to do the inside as well as the outside of the house because you can see all of it. So, makes sense, right? Do it all. Do it all. Give it all the same basic look. It's up to you however you want to do it. Go a little darker, go a little lighter. So, we're just going to stick the house onto our little spot here and add our hot glue to it. Don't be like me. Don't go over the sides. I swear, I don't know sometimes. I don't know. It goes right along with the fact that I can't make a straight line with a ruler. I also cannot put a straight line of glue down either. So here it is. And there's the top. You can see the inspiration. I've got the front. I've got the back. I'm really happy. It's super, super cute. Next, we're going to use one of these little welcome signs. And it's really funny because the welcome is actually upside down compared to like the backing. I kind of destroyed the backing a little bit with it. So I sanded it down and then added the white paper. Not white paper. The white paint. That's Adirondack White by Folk Art. And then we're going to go over with some Parisian gray. And I went way too heavy on this. I barely took anything off the brush, apparently. So don't do that if you're trying just to do a little bit of distressing. But it's okay. I'm just going to go back over with the white, tone it down just to make it not so, you know, streaky. It was very streaky. So we are just going to clean it up with some more of that white paint. Not a big deal, not at all. So, and of course, because I'm not patient, do you think I waited for it to dry before I added on my decal? No, of course not. Why would we do something like that? But it just says Easter Blessings, and I like this. I actually picked it out from So Fancy, I think is the site. I actually found it for free. I'll link it for you below. If you're watching this, the day it's posting, I think that it should still be free this week. They do like a weekly free thing. Every week they have free ones, and then they have a daily one. This is one of the weekly ones. Definitely go check it out. Like I said, I'll link it for you below. And if you do not have a Cricut, I advise just go check out those sites too, because you can get them, and usually they include an SVG file, which you would use for your Cricut or whatever, but then they also will sometimes include like a PDF. So definitely recommend, even if you don't have a Cricut, to go check it out, because on this project, you could have just printed this out on a piece of paper, added a little distressing over it, and it would have given you a very similar result. If you don't have a Cricut, you could even do something like this. So I highly recommend it. When you can, get it for free, guys, because nobody want to pay all that extra money for the, buying decals when you can get them for free. So just to kind of get everything to kind of flow all together, I'm going to add some more of those little pieces off of that rub-on transfer set. And same idea here. See, here I am. I'm going to try my little Cricut scraper thing, and I peel it up and it doesn't work. And like I said, on here, when you're doing any of these rub-ons, if you start to peel it up and you notice that it's still on the transfer, just put it back down and rub it a little bit more. It works so well. So it works really well when you're spot when when your paint is dry all the way too. I ended up adding another one after the fact because it felt like it needed a little something else like right next to the B. And when I did that, I peeled up some of the paint. So like I said, don't be like me. Be patient and let it dry. All right, so here's our little box. I liked the color of it, and it's not really like if I covered it with anything, it's not going to give it any kind of look to it other than just painted. So I took out all of the little nails that were there, and I'm just going to put glue in the corners. This way, if I ever wanted to pop it back out and put something else on it, it's not too difficult to do. And here is our end product. There's our little, inspiration as well. I really like it though. I think I might like mine better. All right, so on here, this is actually a project that was inspired by someone I saw post on a Facebook group. The person who posted it, her name is Jennifer, and she actually has like a little shop up in, I believe, Michigan called Mirakai Moon. I might be saying that completely wrong, but I will link it below in the description box so you can check it out. She posted it, these little bunnies that are made out of these dice. Absolutely adorable. I couldn't get over how cute they were, and I even asked her, I said, hey, is it all right if I make these on my YouTube channel? I'll link you, your stuff on here. I just thought they were too cute. So when I'm doing this, I decided it needed more than one of these balloons, so I did use two of the the 12-inch balloons from Dollar Tree. And you just cut off the end so that you can, get it on there to fit. Be careful, this is a latex balloon, so if you have any kind of allergy to latex, it is made out of latex, and it has the powdery stuff like that you would have if you had like latex gloves. My husband actually has an issue with the powder from latex gloves, so I was like, well, I better make sure I mention that before somebody else tries to make this and then they're worried about it making their hands break out or something like that. So if you have that problem, just be forewarned that that's an issue with this. I even tried to paint the dice. It didn't paint that great, but you could get away with it. So we're going to add our ears. This is just a couple of pieces of felt. I actually freehanded this. Guys, freehanding is not something that's normally in my vocabulary. So if I can freehand these little ears, you can too. When you're freehanding them, what I would recommend, make one set and then use that to kind of make a stencil out of the other set. You know what I mean? That way they're kind of similar, at least kind of close in size, kind of close in shape, that kind of thing. Otherwise, you'd have some wonky looking ears if they were a little different, but you never know. Sometimes bunnies can be wonky, right? So we've got our ears on there, and then next we are going to take a little bit out of these like pearl wrap things that you can get from Dollar Tree. I painted them black. You could also do this with a Sharpie. If you're going to do it, I definitely recommend after you put them on your bunny to go over them just a little bit more with paint because it does kind of tend to scratch off. And then the nose is just a little heart stud from Dollar Tree as well. It's super cute. I love it. And then we're going to use some floral wire, also from Dollar Tree. We're just like almost all Dollar Tree stuff today, I tell you what. I just cut it down, twirl it around like my finger or a pencil or something like that. And then we're going to just paint that black. You could even leave it green. It just depends on, on you. It's all about you. If you think you need to paint it, paint it. I painted it because I thought the little whiskers were cuter if they were black as opposed to being green. If you can find black floral wire, more power to you. You can skip the painting. Just a tiny little dab of glue. And I even wiped off a little bit of it because I didn't want to have glue all over my little bunny's face, even though I think one of these little guys that I made has glue pretty much all over his face or her face, however it is. And then I was like, well, you know what? We need to make a little bow for in front of their ears. So I'm going to make just a little messy bow, just putting a couple of strips of, I can't talk today, sorry. A couple of strips of ribbon. We're just going to tie it down using some twine just to give it a nice little cinch. And then we're just going to wrap the twine around it, as you see here. And once you've done that, you're going to have a nice little center-ish spot for your bow. Once you do that, you're going to kind of pull it tight, tie a little knot. And you know what? It probably would have been a lot more sense if I'd gone like the opposite direction, like one side goes one way, one side goes the other, but I don't know. Sometimes I think about these things after the fact. I'm like, yeah, that might have made more sense. So we're just gonna trim up any little bits of messiness on the edges of our ribbon. We're going to glue that little guy down. Be careful too on, since these are balloons, you know, if you have anything that's super, super hot, like if your glue gun, you know, is really, really hot, it might like get a little hole. So just be warned. And then I'm going to take another one of those little hearts and put it in the middle. I just thought that was a cute little touch. There's lots of different things. You could do all kinds of bows. Here's my set that was my inspiration. And then there's the little set I made, including my wonky little guy. I thought he was kind of funny. So if you're interested in knowing how to do the feet, just let me know. I'll be happy to let you know how to do that. First, we're going to start off with some of these large paint sticks. They're like the gallon size. I think I got it for like $1.50 or so for 3. So you do need 4 of them total. So you'll get 2 packs. And you're just going to cut them off at an angle, at a 45-degree angle. You need 2 that are on the shorter side and 2 that are on the longer side. We're basically making a frame. If you don't want to try to do this, I definitely recommend just getting a wrapped canvas and taking off the wrap part of it, the canvas part. I stapled the back of it, and now I'm going to go ahead and glue it all together. I had a little bit of a problem with getting these to be the right length, so I actually had my husband clean them up on the saw. So like I said, if you don't want to do any of this part, what I would recommend is just getting like a 16 by 20 wrapped canvas. Usually you can get them on a pretty good sale at like Joann's or even Hobby Lobby. Just about any craft store you can get those, or Michael's as well. They often, a lot of times, these all do a pretty good big deal here and there, so you can get them pretty inexpensive. So once I've gone ahead and added all my glue, I'm going to do a little bit of filler in there just to seal it all up, and I'm going to also be doing everything to 2 of these little planks. I'm going in with this wood tint, walnut wood tint, and I did this to all of my pieces of the frame part, and then also to 2 of those wood planks from Dollar Tree. And we're just going to go in with some of this white paint you're seeing right here, and we're going to do a pretty good amount of whitewashing on it. Now, if you're not the biggest fan of like Farmhouse or this type of farmhouse, it's like more rustic kind of thing, just don't do the whitewashing. It's pretty easy. My inspiration was not whitewashed at all, but I personally wanted it to be more in the farmhouse direction. So if you don't like it, if it's not your thing, that's okay. Just leave it one solid color. I think more of like a reddish toned stain would be really pretty. Like I said, I'm going to do the same thing to my planks, and on this one, I'm just going to do it on the front, and then I believe on the other one, I did it front and back. So now we've got a decal. The grass is greener where you water it. How true is that, you know? We're just going to put that down here. I will leave the names of the fonts for you below. I believe they're just pretty much a standard font, and I'll leave the link of where I found that little water can. I try my hardest to find ones that are free because I don't pay for the Cricut design space. I've used it a few times here and there, but I don't pay for it, so I don't want to have to pay for my decals. Now, this stuff that you see right here that I'm adding on to the back side, it is actually gutter guard. It's like some kind of like plasticky gutter mesh, essentially. I thought about using some chicken wire, but then I'd seen a few videos where people were using chicken wire and they're like, oh, it's so hard to work with because it's really sharp. And I was like, yeah, it looks cool, but I don't want any part of that cutting myself up for to make a DIY. So I was looking online and I found this, and on Amazon it's like $2. It's $2 for like a roll of like 20 feet or something ridiculous. So I'll link it for you below, and feel free, just if you don't mind using my link, I'd appreciate it. I would get a tiny little commission off of $2, probably not even a penny, to be honest. But that is, I would definitely recommend looking at using some of this stuff. It gives you a very similar effect without the, sharp craziness that is your, that is going to be like the chicken wire. I like the chicken wire too. That looks cool as well. So what I did is I stapled it all down, and then I went in with a very, very thin fishing line, and actually started tying it together. That would be my recommendation. I tried hot gluing it and it looked like a major mess, so I don't recommend doing that, and that's just seems like that's the best option from what I could tell. Now I do glue down this part here in the middle, and I have some parchment paper underneath it. That way when it stuck, I mean it did still stick to it, but I could get it off pretty easily. And now we're going to take our other plank and we're going to basically create a little shelf. We're going to glue it on to the frame. You probably could do a better job than I did to center it, but that's okay. We're going to disguise that anyways. And then I'm going to give it a little bit more reinforcement. So I'm going to take a short wooden dowel. I think I actually cut down a long one, but you could definitely use just a short one from Dollar Tree. I think I ended up using one of those somewhere along the way. I put it on one on the underside and on the back of it, just to, like I said, to give it a little bit more reinforcement. And we're just going to add a little bow right here. I don't know. I wish I didn't have a thicker ribbon that I liked for it. So I went with the shorter one. I might switch it out for something a little bit thicker. And here's how I styled it. I added just that really cute little, water pot with some florals. It's just super pretty for spring. Now, next one we're going to do is we're going to take one of these dowels. This dowel right here that you're looking at is actually from Hobby Lobby. It was like a 36-inch piece one, and I just cut it in half to be able to make like the top and bottom of this next project. We're going to take some wood glue. I measured out, somewhat measured out at least, kind of where I'm going to put some other wooden dowels, and now we're going to start gluing them down. We're just going to do our wood glue on one part of it, and then we're going to start adding on our hot glue. And as I was doing this, I'm like, this will probably be a whole lot easier if I just put it down on its side. So I end up wiping it all up again, starting over, try it again, and see, yep, now we're going to be a little smarter. I'm going to add my wood glue, add my hot glue, stick it down, try to hold it for a little bit, just long enough to hold it, and get it into place. And then same thing with all of the other ones. Now this pack of wood dowels that I'm using here, I think came in like a pack of 10, I want to say, from Amazon. I'll have it linked for you below as well. It's a little bit thinner, like a little more narrow. I want to say like the large one is 1/2 inch, or maybe 1/4 inch. I can't recall. I'm sorry. I'll get it down in the description box for you though. And then the other ones that are running the other direction are half that size. So no matter what size you go with, if you want to recreate this project, you want one on the bottom and top to be a certain size, and then the ones here in the middle part to be like half that size. So I'm going to add some hot glue down to the back side of it just to give it a little bit more reinforcement. And now we're going to add the one on the top part or bottom part, depending on how you look at it, right? Originally I tried to measure it out like the same way I did the first time around, and I was like, well, that didn't work out the way I had expected. So I ended up, I don't think I ended up going with too much of my markings that I had. I just kind of gave myself a little spot to go off of. I'll be really honest, there's like one of those runs that's going from top to bottom that is not the straightest, but that's okay. We're going to add some stuff to kind of mask that as well. Just don't tell anybody, okay? Don't tell anybody I made it crooked. I'm a professional after all. So same thing, wood glue, hot glue, press it down. You're going to let it set for a little bit. I think I probably let it set for a couple of hours just to make sure that it was all there, all on there. So here it is. It's all put together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a coat of the the Waverly chalk paint in ink. Goodness gracious, can't talk. And then I'm taking this scrap piece of wood. You see it came from like a wine crate or something. And I'm just going to do a really light coat of that Waverly wax. And we're adding this decal, Love Grows Here. And it was funny, all of these things that I put like decals on and writing on, I just used the same piece of transfer tape like over and over again. And I think that this is probably the second project I think I did with it. And you can see I've got like various pieces. You know what? It's one of those things. It's like, why not just reuse it? That way you save yourself some money. So we're going to add that on. I'm just kind of playing with the placement a little bit, figure out where I would like it. And we're just gonna do some hot glue, and I'm smart about it. At first I was gonna just throw it on the back of the larger plank, and I was like, wait, nope, that won't work out very well for me. So just put it on your runs where your sign's gonna be, and that part is all set. And now we're just going to add these little bottles. They're from Dollar Tree. Yes, I had to think about that. They're from Dollar Tree, and they're just perfect for this particular project. My inspiration that I'd seen actually had glass, but glass adds so much weight, and when you've got stuff held together with, hot glue, and granted, I do have, obviously, these pieces of wood are done by the wood glue too, but I just think that plastic on some projects is so much better, so much easier to deal with than to add glass, because glass, it adds your weight, and if anything happens and it like comes apart, it's going to make a big mess. So here it is. Like I said, we disguised how one isn't exactly perfect with that little bit of lavender. And on the next one, you're going to need 2 pizza pans, and we're going to paint them both with this plaster color paint. And I have this beaded garland. Now, this project was one of my problem children in this video. So the garland is still, all strung up. And what I would recommend, which is not what I did in this video, I would recommend leaving the string in there. Tie yourself a good knot on one end and leave the string there, because it's going to really help. And in a minute, I'll tell you what happened. I don't think I showed it. But basically putting down all of my hot glue. And another thing I would recommend, if you have something that you use like E6000, or I use a Gorilla Glue for it, I would recommend doing that either in addition to the hot glue or in place of the hot glue, because it did not hold as well as I would have liked. So here we go. We're going to take off, our little spot with the beads. I should have like measured it out ahead of time. And here's my moment. I should not have done that. I pull off the string. You should have left it, Theresa. It was fine. You couldn't see it. The reason being is because there are some little spots here and there that did not get a great adherence with the glue. So I put it all together, and then they start rolling around. A couple popped out, and see, here it is. I was like, well, maybe I just need to redo the gluing down part. And so here's my Gorilla Glue that I use. I prefer this to E6000. It sets up much faster. And see, I'm thinking like, well, maybe if I put it behind there, it'll work. No, you should have just left the string on there. So, like I said, if you have a beaded garland, and it was so funny. I thought I was so smart. I was like, I'm going to just take the string out of the beaded garland, and it's going to work out so well. Oh goodness, Theresa. It should have just left it. But that's all right. It ends up coming together in the end. So we put down that lid, and then I spent probably a good half an hour re-gluing some of the beads that came out. So I ended up painting them though, and now they're all in there and they're fine. And I'm using this little round contraption. I'm not really sure what to call it, or some kind of round ruler type of thing. My husband got it for me from Amazon. I'll have it linked for you. And what it's great for is helping you find the center point and making points of where you're going to put something down. Now, my only trick so far has been to figure out what exactly I'm supposed to use that'll fit in those little holes. What I end up doing is I get this little pointy thing from Dollar Tree, and I end up just kind of scratching a little spot, hold it steady, scratch a spot with it, and then, use it, hold it steady again, and scratch the spot, basically making myself like little reference points of where to put that candlestick. Now that's obviously a candlestick. I painted the same color paint, see, I'm going to just then color it in a little just so I can see where to place my candlestick using my Gorilla Glue. And once we're going to put that on there, see, I'm doing like a combo on this one too, Gorilla Glue, hot glue. And we'll use those little dots that I made as a reference point of where the middle is. I'm sure it's probably still not perfect because that's just me. So here it is. It's all together, and here it is all finished pretty much, except, we can't just leave it white. My inspiration that I seen, it was actually just white, but I wanted to give it a little bit of the antiquing, You know how it is. We like to do that here, is just give it some antiquing. Otherwise, it's like I'd have to worry about it getting dirty or, or whatever. You know, I have two kids. White stuff just does not have any place in my house right now. You guys will have to let me know in the comments. Is that how your house is too? Is like white one of those things you can't seem to ever keep? Like that color in your homes? Between that and between dogs and kids and all that. So basically what we did, we just, like I said, we did a good coat in that, and now we're going to go back with that same plaster color and kind of, you know, adjust a little bit of the spots that I thought like were a little too heavy handed. It helps blend it out. It just, I don't know, I'm liking this. This is actually a little tip I had taken from Savannah from Savvy Crafts with Savannah. I'll have her stuff her channel linked for you below, but that's kind of how she does it. She'll put down a layer and then kind of go back and forth, and I'm really liking it right now. So I am going to definitely recommend you guys check her out if you have not already. She's great. She's hilarious. You're going to love her. If you're not already, you know, subscribed and watch her already. In which case, obviously, you do love her. So here it is, all finished. I really like that distressed look. I think it's going to be really pretty. And here's our next project. And we're taking one of these little crates and some popsicle sticks, large craft sticks, whatever you prefer to call them. And I'm just going to snip off one side, measure out where to cut on the other one using my handy dandy miter shears. And then we're going to see, there's going to be like a little bit, it's a little bit too wide. It was weird. Like this one was a little too wide. The next step down was a little too thin. So they're pretty easy to cut down this way because that's the direction the grains of wood are going. So we'll just cut it down and we're going to glue it down on each side. So you'll need 3 basically on each side. And this one was a little too long. I didn't go back and check it like I should have. So I just trim it down a little bit with my craft knife, and then I'll sand it just to kind of fix it a little bit. So it doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to just be one of those little mini book stacks. I got the idea of using this from Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs. And so basically we're just going to do a full coat, which I believe I already did. Yep, full coat of the plaster from Waverly, and we're going to add our decal, and it's just Spring Has Sprung. I thought it was cute. I saw this from Hobby Lobby and decided it was cute. I needed to make one myself. So we're just going to add our decal. It's in actually like a dark navy blue permanent vinyl, and I thought that was kind of cool just because you'll see here in a minute what we're going to do to the top part of our little book stack. So that part is done, and this is the part that I got from Sammy, is we're actually going to add some little bits of lining on each side, like if you were looking at the books from, you know, one certain direction or the other. And I just kind of, you know, smudge it in a little bit. You can use pencil, you can use marker, pen, whatever you want to do. If you use marker, I would say you probably just need to do like a light coat of paint over it. So now it looks like it has pages. So like I said, we did not paint that top part as you're looking at it right now. I didn't paint that because we're going to add just a little bit of this material. And this is from Dollar Tree. And if I had had paper, I probably would have done paper over the material, but I didn't have it. So we're just going to add on our one part of it on here. I'm sorry, you can't see it. Basically, I added just a little bit of glue. I had cut it down a little big on purpose and tried to get like those first couple of those first 2 spots straight, you know, when I was cutting it. So because I knew those parts were going to go down first. And now what we'll do is we're going to just kind of start to cut off. Nope, I lied. I'm sorry. We're going to glue down all of the other parts down first, and then we're going to cut it. That way it gives us kind of like that perfect line. See, I was smart. I was like, let me do this part, glue it down first instead of trying to make sure it's going to fit perfect, because you want to kind of stretch it and make it very taut on this little book, you know, faux book pile. And then I'll cut down all of that excess right there. It's not going to be the most perfectly straight line, but it's in the back. So I was like, well, you know, it's okay. I added a coat of Mod Podge on it just to give it, you know, a good longevity, and I really actually like the texture it gives it. It's a very smooth texture. Like I almost imagine that's what it would be more similar to what you'd find on a book. And we're going to go in with some Parisian gray paint from Folk Art, and just to give it a little bit of a shadowy effect. My husband actually looked at it and he was like, it needs like a little shadow. I was like, you know what? You are right. You are right, honey. It does need a little bit of a shadow. So I just go over it a little bit, give it a little something something, and of course I went a little too heavy at first, so I go back with that same white paint to, you know, tone it down a little bit. And we're just going to wrap around some twine. I already made those beads. I'll list the paint colors for you below in case you're interested. I just added a few little beads for the garland, make a little bow. Eventually, and actually, you know what? That's what it was. I decided against the bow because I couldn't get it to work right with the beads that I had already added. In reality, I probably should have just, you know, waited. But I'm going to cut off the excess, and then I'm going to just make a quick little, you know, shoestring bow. And we're just going to glue it on there instead of having it tied on there, and it'll work out just fine. So here you go, all finished. Isn't it pretty? It's cute. It's just something nice just to add a little something somewhere, you know. Last one, not really sure if I should count this as a DIY, but we are going to anyways. I already cleaned off all of these rocks with some rubbing alcohol, and I made just a couple of little things here to add on to it. Funny story, the reason I need these because my husband has for the last several months kept looking at this thing of sage outside, and he's like, oh, I need to go get some basil. And I'm like, that's not basil, that's sage. He'll come back in with it, with some of it in his hand. He's like, you know what? This is sage. This isn't basil. I said, I know. I've told you that. I don't know how many times. So he won't forget this time because they're going to be marked. And we're going to coat that with just some dishwasher Mod Podge because it's going to be outside. So first we're starting off with one of these little terracotta pots from Dollar Tree and some of these little button sticker things. Don't worry, I know the color is a little weird, but we are not leaving them that color. So we're just going to stick them all around the rim of that pot. You can space them out however you want. If you want them a little more spaced, I tried to keep them fairly close as far as spacing goes. There's a little gap in the back, but that's okay. We're just gonna, you know, just put that in the back. So we're gonna go in with Adirondack White and give it a full coat. I think I ended up doing like 2.5 coats. And then we're going to take this Parisian Gray color paint and do a dry brushing. It's probably a little bit more paint on the brush than it should have been, but I'll show you in a minute how to fix that. So I'm really kind of focusing on getting the overall like shape of those buttons so that you can see them. Obviously, if you were to leave it white, it would be very pretty and pristine, but you wouldn't really see those buttons. So I went into it knowing I was going to distress it. I know, big surprise, right? So we're going to just go through and distress the entire thing. I'm kind of focusing again on like the under rim of the pot to give it a little something. I did go in, you know, and do a little bit down in the pot on the white. So I want to do the same with the gray. I just thought I needed to be able to have it down a little bit because I was afraid if I didn't do it, you'd be able to see the terracotta coming through. So I went in just, you know, maybe 1.5 inches or something, if I'm being technical with you. So see, I'm going over on the sides. And again, I think this is a little bit too much. So what I will do is I will go back with my white and just kind of blur it out a little bit, like fade it some, you know what I mean? I recently started doing this after watching Savannah with Savvy Crafts with Savannah, and she does this a lot, and I was like, that's such a good idea. Way to go, Savannah, with your good ideas. So there it is. Here we go. Right here. Here we go. It's all done. Purple flowers for you, Melissa, if you're watching this. First, we're going to start off with one of these 8x8 canvases. Now, this is not something I got from Dollar Tree. I actually got it from Joann's. It's an 8x8, but it ended up being less than $1 each. So I'm taking off all of the canvas part, and I was shocked at how nice this frame was that was underneath. It needed a little attention with that wood filler, which is what we're going to do next. We're going to just fill in all that spots that were kind of blank and empty, and then we're going to do a good sanding and add our wood tint. Next, we're going to use one of these little flowers from Dollar Tree, got this idea from another friend, Rhonda, over at the Distressed Princess. I'm going to link her video below for you where she uses this and another thing I'll use later on too. So I painted it all in white, and then we're going to go in with this ink colored paint, i.e. black. And we're going to just basically trim along the edges of all the petals first. And then we're going to basically do it through the entire project, you know, along the petals. Rhonda did something really nice with it as well. I definitely would recommend you going and checking out that video. And she's really great with a lot of farmhouse stuff too. So if you like Farmhouse, you're going to love her channel. So as we go along doing this, I'll tell you a little bit about my shopping trip. Jackie from a Dollar Tree Mimi's World and I decided we would go shopping together at, I mean, shocker, Dollar Tree. She actually lives about an hour or hour and a half or so away from me, so we decided it would just be a fun time. So, and it's funny because what we were supposed to do, we were supposed to shop for each other and do like a she shopped for me kind of video, and we forgot. So since we forgot to do that, we ended up just saying like, okay, well, just use something that you found at this trip. This isn't something I found at that trip, but I liked it so much I had to show it to you first. Once you're done with that, we're going to go in with this gray wood tint from Folk Art and just going to give it just kind of like a little bit of a brushing on all of the petals again. And I have this little trick to come from the Blondie next door, Yelena. She has been using this tint and I had bought it a while ago and I used it on wood and I didn't like it. And she was saying how she uses it to distress. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give that a shot. And I really like it. So it was good to have, you know, something to do with it because I love the walnut one on wood. Just this one, for whatever reason, when I would use it to stain wood, it just didn't give it much of a nothing. There was like nothing there. But for distressing on top of something that's white, perfection. So thank you, Yelena. So I go through, give it a nice little, you know, looks over, everything looks good. And then we're going to add these wooden dowels to the back side of our canvas frame. So when we're doing that, what we're going to do first is we're going to glue down one. See, I'm kind of taking a look at, one is going to go down straight down, and then the other one I'm just going to cut. So I'll show you that here. Just use my handy dandy miter shears. They will be linked for you below if you're interested in them. And I am going to just add a glue, you know, dab, a good size dab in each corner for the first one. Give that just a minute or two to set up. And then we're going to use this one that we cut in half. And obviously you're going to add your glue to the one corner. And then there's funny, there's actually a spot that was kind of flattened. So it was kind of perfect for this particular project. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. Don't worry, you're not going to see the middle of it. So I'll show you in just a minute. We're going to add just a little bit more glue to it as well to give it a little stronger, more secure hold. So see, we're just going to do a little bit of glue right there, just to give it a little more security. And now we're onto the front, and I'm going to add a little glue here in the middle as well because our flower that we're about to add kind of dips down in the middle, so it's not even going to touch that. So we're going to add our glue around the perimeter of the flower, plop it on top of those wooden dowels, and away you go. You know, and I do end up adding some glue after the fact on the back. I can't remember if I showed you it. I was kind of like playing around with it. Yep, here we go. I'm just going to add some more glue right over where those wooden dowels meet the flower, just to make sure you have a little more hold, a little more security. The flower is really not heavy, so I wouldn't be too concerned about it, but just because they're not completely attached to each other, just, you know. And here it is, all finished. I really, really love this one. Here is one of the items I picked up when we went shopping. It was this little home sign, and it was actually already taken apart. Like, not intentionally taken apart, but you know how it is. Sometimes you get something from Dollar Tree that's not always the best quality, but that's okay. I was like, no, I like that it's apart already. It had a little bit of like adhesive on it, you know, from where the home was supposed to be. So just a little bit of sanding and it fixed it right up. We're going to add this decal to it because I absolutely love the background of this sign. We're just going to do a nice little thing for spring. It's absolutely perfect for spring. It says some people see, or some see a weed, others see a wish. or Some See a Wish. I thought it was just really cute and kind of perfect for spring. So we're just going to add that on, give it a nice, varnishing, and pull up your transfer tape. Make sure when you're doing this, you're careful to add your transfer tape, like stick it on like your sleeve or something, just to get a little bit of the stickiness away from it so it's easy to transfer. So that was a little tip that I had gotten from Christy Creates. She's not exactly like a close personal friend, but I watch her and she gave that tip to everyone watching her. So, but it's a good tip. So, I actually, because I didn't feel like cutting cutting one long piece, I cut a few different small pieces and I ran into a little bit of a problem, but that's all right. It ends up working out just fine. Just if you segment it and make little pieces to go over your words or whatever you're going to be putting down in your vinyl, just make sure you're careful about your pieces of transfer tape. So here it is. We're just going to put it on there. Now you'll notice it's a little wiggly, like things are just not perfect usually from the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to take this tiny little skewer stick, and I didn't even need to glue it. I'm just going to, push it down in between, the actual sign part, and here it is, all finished, perfect for spring. I absolutely love it. So on to our next project. I'm going to take this little box and we're going to get rid of all the glitter, and then we're going to give it a nice solid coat of the Adirondack white. And we're going in with that same gray tint, wood tint from Folk Art, and we're going to go all around the perimeter first. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of go in, I decided that was not a good brush for this. So I end up with just a small chip brush, and we're just going to go through and give it a really good distressing. It sounds kind of funny when you say it like that. It's a really good distressing, like distressing is normally good, except in this instance, distressing is good. If it's not your thing, if you prefer to have things like a very clean traditional look, just skip over on this part and maybe do an extra coat of the white, just so, or whatever color you choose. So just depending on, on you, how you like your stuff, that's what I would recommend doing. It was really funny because the first decal I cut out I didn't really like, so I ended up doing this one, which I like much, much better. It just says seeds. I thought it was kind of perfect. I was going to do it for like flowers, like fresh flowers, but I like the seeds better because it's so small. And what I did, I tried to handwrite it, and it was ridiculous. I couldn't even show you guys. It was awful. Like I used that artisan marker to try to handwrite it, and I was like, yeah, I can't even show this as a fail. So I end up just adding on my little 25 cents on the front. This is removable vinyl because I do have a plan for this in the future. So what I did, I just, like I said, same way as before, and I needed a little something extra, so I'm going to take one of those rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree, and of course it ends up being like the one in the very middle of the page, so you got to like cut around all the other pieces of the ones that you don't want to use. And so eventually, sometime today, I will get that transfer off of the sheet and I will show you. Yep, here it is. Just peel it off. It's just this tiny little flower detail. I thought it was just kind of perfect. And you're going to use the edge of something like here I'm using the end of a paintbrush, or you can use the end of basically any of your little tools. Those are what I have found are best. And then you peel it up and you're good to go. And I'll show you here how I styled it. I just added in all these really pretty like little wildflower things from Dollar Tree. Next, we're going to use this charger. Now, if you can't find this charger, what I recommend doing is look online because it is available. And I'm going to use this I Love Spring. Now, if you do not have a Cricut, I'm going to leave the link for where I found this below. You download it as a PDF and just print it off on your printer. Easy peasy. And then see, I'm using my little round ruler thing that will also be linked for you below should you be interested in it from Amazon. Now, all of those links from Amazon are affiliate links, but they don't cost you anything. If you want to use them, great. If you don't, that's okay too. So I was going to try to make like a really good rounded cut, but then I was like, you know what? Things are going to go on top of it anyways. So we're just going to kind of go around trying to stay close to where those dots are that I made, just to give me kind of a guideline to make sure I don't make it completely wonky. So as you can see here, it's definitely not, it's not where it really needs to be. So we're going to go through and just start to cut down where, makes the most sense. Again, it's not going to be something you can really see the edge of all that well, so I'm not real worried about it being perfect. So Oh yes, by the way, this SVG that I did get is free. I'm gonna link it for you. All you have to do is like sign up, and basically you just get a bunch of email to your email. So who cares, right? If it's free, and they have a pretty good selection too. So next, what we're gonna do is we're going to add a whole bunch of hot glue. And this is funny. So I'm really careful, not touching the hot glue, push it down on the thing, straighten it out, put my hands on it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's hot. So don't do that. And then of course my very technical tool of like a pencil holder to try to push it down on the plate. Goodness gracious, guys. I pretend to be a professional. So next we're going in with those same wildflowers that we used on the last DIY. Is we're just going to kind of take some pieces off of it, find some good spots to put everything, and we're going to speed you up here just so you can, you know, get the basic gist of it. That little flower, I tell you what, it just did not want to sit down. It was like all about standing up. And see, it's moving again, but that's all right. We're going to work with it. So I add a bunch of these little purpley, flowery things down here at the bottom. These picks are really pretty, and you get a little bit of a variety too. I know it's like sometimes it's great to get a bunch of the same things, but sometimes I want to get a pick with a lot of variety, because then you're not using like 5 different picks when you're trying to put something together. So I basically just kind of layered it, you know, underneath the last piece just to make sure you can't see all of the stems. And I'm going to add some more pieces. That was kind of like my greenery I laid down first. And now I'm going to start laying down the more flowery looking parts of these wildflower picks. All in all, I used roughly 2, but I didn't use all of the 2. So you definitely get a lot of different things that are really small and delicate and just really perfect for, you know, spring. So I know a lot of people have been having awful weather lately. So hopefully this gives you some things to hope, you know, bring it into your home, add a little bit of brightness to your home and you know, in the dreary weather. I don't want to rub it in, but I can't say that I have a lot of dreary weather other than rain. I mean, we've had some rain here, but I live in Florida. It's been, you know, pretty warm here. It feels like spring, at least to me. So, I'm just adding a bunch of these other little pieces from it. See there, you can kind of see it in the corner. I just kind of cut off where I want and just add it in, again, layering it underneath those other pieces so you don't really see the stem. So eventually I'm going to be done here. I didn't realize I left all this in, but that's all right. You get the basic idea of kind of different ways to lay things, layer them, and all that. So once I've gotten to the point where I'm happy, which obviously not yet, there's another tip for you. If you're having a hard time finding ways to put these in, trim off the part that you're going to add the glue to. So I'm going to add this little bow. That ribbon I just got from Dollar Tree on my last shopping trip. And it's really nice and pretty, perfectly like neutral farmhouse. I love it. And that's just like a little shoestring bow. I didn't show it to you because it's pretty simple. Even I can figure it out. It's just a regular old shoestring bow. And I am going to glue down the tails to it as well, just to kind of get them in a spot that looks nice. And that way, once I find that spot, I can glue it down and not have to worry too much about, you know, it flopping all over my writing that, you know, you want to be able to see it. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to leave this charger like on a stand or if I'm going to add a hanger or something. I haven't decided yet. So here it is all finished for you. Here it is in a stand. You know, like I said, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to add a hanger. So first we're going to start off with one of these little chick cutouts, and we're going to just give it one good coating of that wood tint from Folk Art, and it's in the color Walnut. And now we're going to go in with our Folk Art white Adirondack paint, and I was originally just going to do like a little bit of a brushing, not too much, you know, just add a little bit of something, you know, just, and then I dropped it. And then I was like, well, I guess we're going to go a lot heavier than I had originally anticipated. Does that happen to you guys all the time? Like you do something and you're like, well, I guess we're going to do it a little different today. And then I'm going to take this little finger sander and we're just going to sand down, you know, some of the edges, parts in the middle, just to give it a little bit of a rougher overall look. So yeah, it's funny accidents, right? It's like you do something and you're like, well, different direction instead, because I wasn't going to, you know, go back over it and paint it again or anything like that. So it's all right. I think it ended up good. So now that that is all finished, we're going to take this tiny little bit of the calendar piece from the Simply Blessed calendar. I cut it out off one of the little back parts just to give it, I don't know, a little extra touch. So of course, it's really, really white because it came off of a white calendar. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over that with that same wood tint just to kind of blend it in a little bit, make it look a little dirtier. And basically, I dip my brush in the tint and then blot it off on a paper towel so that it's really not, it's not like it's fully saturating the actual little piece of paper. So, and I just stuck it on there with one of those giant glue sticks from Target. That I stole from my kids. And then I'm going to go around and give a little more definition, a little shadowing almost around the edges of that. I'm going to call it a sticker. It's not a sticker, but you know what I mean. The little piece that we stuck onto the chick. Like I said, just to give it a little something. And I don't know if anyone noticed this, but it says nest and chicks have a nest. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's corny. I can't help myself sometimes. So once we're all finished with that, we're going to go ahead and start working on this frame. Originally it was gold, but I've already painted it with plaster from Waverly, of course. And so next we're going to take some of this chicken wire. Again, do you get it? You get it? My son does that all the time. It's hilarious. And this is a little cheating. They do sell it from the Dollar Tree. I have not seen it from the Dollar Tree. And honestly, if I do find it at the Dollar Tree, I'm not 100% sure I'll get it because I've found this little spool of chicken wire ribbon or something. And I'm just going to cut it down to fit. I cut 3 of those, to fit all the way across. And next we're going to start putting it down. I'm going to clamp it down a little bit. Be very careful, even if you do find this at Hobby Lobby, it is still rather sharp when you cut it, so just be careful. I definitely got myself a couple of times. And then we're just going to glue it all down, and that little glue gun is new. It is a Sure Bonder still, but I got it off a recommendation from Liz, the official craft nerd, and of course I had to buy it because it's without wires and it's chargeable, so I'll have it linked for you down below in case you're interested in it. I'm still in the process of trying it out, so no definite direction of a review yet. So once I've glued everything down, then I'm going to start to trim off that chicken wire. Now it's going to leave, like I said, it leaves definitely a jagged sharpness to it, but in a minute I'll show you what we're going to do as a result to kind of keep you safe and keep your walls safe. So I'll show you that here in a minute. But like I said, just going through with my little wire cutters, those little pliers that came in like a set of 3. It's like a jeweler's set or something, and it works really well for this kind of stuff. I'll have it linked for you too. And so once we're done with that, make sure you're very careful about all the pieces that you cut off because, you don't really want to leave those sitting around somewhere and you not realize that. So we did that all the way across with 3 pieces. And now I'm going to add down some glue, and I'm going to add one of these short dowels from Dollar Tree. It's absolutely perfect size. I didn't have to cut it down at all. And we're going to just put that on the part of the frame that has all of the jaggedness. Like the ones that run like long ways, we don't really need to do that. So next we're going to take just a regular popsicle stick, craft stick, cut it shorter than you think you should cut it because I cut it a little too long, and using my miter shears, just trim it up. And I'm going to have that popsicle stick, craft stick thing on the back side. And then we're going to have obviously the chick on the front side. So this is just giving your little chick something to kind of hold on to. And it's also going to keep some of that chicken wire kind of stationary, you know what I mean? Like obviously it's 3 pieces, so this is going to help kind of keep it all together. See here, I'm just kind of arranging it a little bit and then getting it stuck down, and then we're going to put our chick. And see, I definitely should have gone a little shorter on the chick, but that's okay, or on the stick. Chick. Oh gosh, I need more coffee. So and then once I've gotten it most of the way down, I'm going to go ahead and add some more glue and just kind of sneaking that nice, smaller tip of the glue gun in between those 2 pieces. I'll add a little here or there, just to kind of get it nice and, situated there. So I added a little more too, just without where it doesn't have the glue, just to kind of keep that wire from moving around a lot. See, we're just, like I said, we're just adding tons and tons of glue. So just try not to go too overboard. I tend to do that. And that way you're not ending up trying to get rid of all the glue. And see, I had to cut down just a little bit of the stick. You could see it. So, and then we're cleaning up all the glue pieces because it's unavoidable. And see, like that little foot had a little spot to glue down. So I did that. And here's just, you know, a bow I added. It's just a shoestring bow. Nothing particularly fancy about how I made it. You guys know me. I don't do bows very well. And I'm just going to glue down the tails just to give them, you know, a little bit of a cute look so they're not just hanging wherever they feel like it. We put them where we want them. Here it is, all finished. It's super, super cute. Super cute. Can't get over it. So next we're going to start off with one of these little tulip wood pieces, and we're going to cut off the base. And as you can see, we stained it with the same wood tint, walnut wood tint, and we're going to mix some yellow and some white paint. The yellow one is called Maize. It is from Waverly, and then the white is still that Adirondack white. And we're just going to mix the two of those together because it's a tulip. I kind of wanted it to have just a little bit of yellow to it, you know, so where it's not just straight white doing that, you know, that distressing, basically, just to give it, you know, a little bit of color. It's not really something that's really gonna stand out, but I know it's there, and it's just a little something, you know. It's like very, very pale yellow. So I just kind of go along the edges for the most part. I go in the middle part where the little picture would be if you use a picture, around the stem, that kind of thing. And then we are going to use another piece from that same Simply Blessed calendar, and I'm just going to use the little circle picture form to draw around it, cut it out, and add it into it. And now we're using this clay pot from Dollar Tree garden section. I'm going to link below where I actually DIY'd this. I did it on a previous video, but I will link it for you below. And we are going to just use a piece of pool noodle. I like that better than floral foam a lot of the times just because it ends up being less messy and you get a lot for your money because you get one big pool noodle for $1. So I'm just going to find a good spot for that, and then we're going to start placing all of that little boxwood plant in there. And here's how it turned out. I think it's really cute. You know, enjoy the little things. It's such a cute little thing. And so on our last project, this is going to be super fast. I'm taking a glass container from Dollar Tree. I think it's supposed to be like a candle holder. I spray painted it white, did about 2 coats to cover it. And then we're going to take that ink Waverly chalk paint and just kind of go around on, you know, like the edges, a little bit in the middle, you know, just kind of wherever makes some sense. It's almost like I'm trying to make it look a little bit like that, I can't think of it now, enamel. I'm kind of trying to make it look a little bit like a worn enamel. I probably should have gone with a satin paint, satin for the white. So if you are trying to recreate something like this, if you have a satin spray paint, that would probably be the better choice, to be honest. I did not. So again, same thing, pool noodle. And we're going to just use one of these little succulent plants and another little succulent plant. They're so stinking cute. I mean, Dollar Tree is like stepping it up. Those are from the garden section, so that's where to look for those. And we're going to add some rocks in there just to give it like a little like rocky garden kind of look. And you can't really see the rocks too much, so, you know, especially with the pool noodle in there, you don't really have to use a lot. That was kind of nice. And we're going to add our second succulent in there. And here's how it turned out. It's really cute. I like it. All right, first we're starting off with that Our Nest is Best. I went ahead and sanded off the part where it said best because that was in glitter. I did that with my electric sander. I'll link it for you below. I love that thing. It's great, especially for glitter. And I went ahead and just gave it a good coat with some Waverly chalk paint in plaster. And then the top one is a chalk paint from Folk Art. I'll link it for you below, or list the name for you below. And we're adding our decal to it, and this one is it's going to be really cute. It's kind of like all centered around this whole idea of like a garden kind of thing. So you're going to see here in a few minutes what I'm talking about. So this first one, I wanted to do the bottom first, and you'll see here in a minute I decided to keep it kind of down to the left. And then I've got the, I'm doing bulbs and flower seeds on this one. You guys will have to let me know how you like the lighting. Usually I have an like a lamp basically on where I'm filming, so it's not so shadowy, but I like the color that you get without it, but I like it better not to have shadows. You guys have to tell me your preference. So we're just putting down our decal, and now what we're going to do, because I think it needed something else, we're going to use one of these rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. This was from my stash, so don't get mad. And I am just going to put that little flower up on the top. These are really easy to apply. Once you figure it out, like where you want it, you just take the back of something, like I use my little hot glue pusher downer thing, technical term. It's actually a spatula from the beauty section, should you be looking for it. And then it gave me a lot of trouble wanting to come back up. So just, the other ones didn't. I don't know why this one did not want to come back up, but I thought that black flowering thing was really pretty. And then I'm going to add some little detailing here from the same pack. I felt like this one kind of almost looked a little bit like seeds. So I was like, well, this is a good little spot to put that. So that's what I'm doing, putting it right there. And I'm just kind of cutting around any little pieces off that I want to use on this little sign. And I was at first I was on the fence on whether I should have distressed it or not. I ended up not doing it. So then I'm going to add these little ones off to the sides just to give it something to fill it in. I wanted to keep the middle part, like the bulbs and part, to be centered, so I wanted to add a little detail on the sides of it though. And those ones come up super easy, not too much difficulty. I don't know what was up with the first one. So now we're going to also cut around and get another one to do. It's a different piece. It's a little bit longer, just to add, a little bit of different look to it. So you guys will have to tell me if you've been able to find any of these rub-on decals. I love them. So here it is, all finished, bulbs and flower seeds, and you'll see in a few minutes why. All right, so on to our next one. I'm kind of tackling all my signs first. So we're going to do a solid coat of Waverly chalk paint in moss, and then we're going to do a little bit of distressing, but we're going to do some plaster first, and then we're going to add that antique wax. Now my antique wax is from Folk Art. It's very similar, I believe, to the Waverly one. I actually have a container of it, but I haven't opened it yet because I still have this one open. First I'm just going to do, a quick, at first I was going to do a brushing. I was just going to do a little bit of a brushing, antique it a little bit, and then I decided I wanted to give it a more full coat of this antique wax. I just do it with this little tiny chip brush, and it works out really well. I really love the way these beads end up looking. It just gives it a little bit darker color. The natural wood is really pretty too, but I felt like it just needed to be a little darker. So now that that is done, I'm going to take some of the Waverly chalk painted plaster and just go around the sides and also through the middle a little bit. Just a little, because I am going to use a white decal on this one, so I didn't want it to be too light for obvious reasons. And then we'll go in with the antique wax, and we're going to add some of that on here as well. Just, this is all like gardeny and everything like that. So I was like, well, it makes sense for it to be dirty, right? So it's got to be dirty. So we're just going to add some of that. I'm going over pretty much anywhere that I had made white, just to give it a little bit more of the brownish tone. One thing that's really fun to do, I've done it in a few videos before, is adding the antique wax to the moss chalk paint, and it almost looks like a worn copper almost. If you have copper that's really copper, it turns green with the patina. So it gives it a really cool effect. So FYI for future projects. Next, we're going to do this Bloom Where You Are Planted, or Bloom Where You're Planted decal. I'm going to link where I found this one below. It is a free file if you just sign up for it. I think it's like Love SVG or something, I think is what it's from. I'll link it for you though. That way you can download it and use it if you would like to. If you guys are ever interested in watching a tutorial on how I download it and use it or whatever, just let me know. I'd be happy to do that. So I'm going to take a little bit of the antiquing wax and I'm just going to go over my decal lightly with it, with my finger. Very technical tool I have there, right? Sometimes the best things you have to use are the tools you were born with. So, gosh, isn't that the truth? So we're just going over that decal just because, again, I didn't want it to be that really stark white. I probably need to try to find like a barely off-white vinyl. That might be kind of a nice thing to look for. Has anyone ever seen that? I like an off-white, like barely off-white kind of vinyl, kind of like plaster, the color, you know, Waverly paint. That would be a good thing to look at. So I'm just going through and finishing all of this up, and then we will be finished. Here it is, super pretty. I love it. I love it with the green. It just kind of brings a little gardeny effect. Next, we're going to tackle this little cutting board, cover it with plaster from Waverly, like you're surprised. And now we're going to decoupage this napkin. It's actually half of a napkin that I used on a previous project. So we're getting really thrifty with it. So just putting down a good coat of Mod Podge, and then I'm just gonna plop my napkin on top of that, kind of trying to line it up. It was like almost a little too small, but it ended up working out pretty well. And it gives it a little bit of a wrinkly look to it, but I'm not mad about it. I'm pretty happy with the way it looked. So, and then I'll just, of course, add my coat of Mod Podge on top. And I listened on my last video. I had mentioned that it was my first time doing decoupage, and I asked, you know, the best way to kind of finish off the edges. And I don't show it on here, but what I did do is I took a sanding block and I actually you know, roughed up the edge, not roughed it up, but, you know, like took off the excess of the napkin. So once it's good and dry, I am going to take this little plank and I'm going to stain it with a walnut wood tint from Folk Art. And then we're going to, of course, add some more antiquing to the edges of this cutting board, now turned into a sign. So also, so you know, this is going to be part of a playlist, and it's going just to, you know, go through all of the stuff that we shared with our friends, the stash swap, if you will. And it is going to be part of a giveaway, so make sure that you are watching and commenting on everyone's videos. That way you get entered in to win an Amazon gift card. So that way you can build up your own stash. I know if you're an avid crafter, who knows, you probably have a pretty good stash going, but hey, new stuff is always fun. So we're going to add our Farmers Market decal to the front part here. And I didn't want to show you the whole thing since I've already shown it to you. And I'm just going to hot glue down one of these little tumbling tower blocks. That way we can kind of give it a little bit of like a three-dimensional effect, even though it's really not 3D, but you know what I mean. Give it to where it's kind of setting out from that back panel. And then I feel like, you know, it needs a little something extra. So we're just going to go ahead and add a little bit of the florals, some of these little leaves from, I believe, one of these like wildflower bunches from Dollar Tree. And definitely keep an eye out for my videos upcoming. I want to do a giveaway. I got a whole set of these different ones set aside for giveaways, so keep an eye out for that too. Here it is, all finished up, our little farmer's market. That's kind of like the whole motif I was going for. Next, we're going to tackle this box. I love it, but I was like, what am I going to do if I'm not going to like completely paint over it or something? So I'm taking some antique wax on a baby wipe and I'm just going to go over it lightly with that. And what's nice is like if you get too much in one spot, you just kind of wipe it away with the baby wipe. I'm going to do that for the entire box, and rather than show you every bit of it, I cut that out. You're welcome. And next we're just going to add a piece of scrapbook paper right on top of the mirror because I wasn't really interested in the mirror for this particular project. I did cut off the strings as well, which I probably should not have done because now it's very top heavy, but that's okay. So add that little bit of scrapbook paper there, and next we're just going to fill the bottom part of it with some yellow paper. I think I got this when I bought something from Joann's, so it was nice, you know, thing I had available and didn't have to pay anything for. And next we're tackling these gourds. So Cindy thought she was so funny sending me pumpkins and gourds. And she sent it to me, and then she sent me a picture of a gnome. And she's like, look, you can make a gnome. And I was like, ha ha ha, so funny. I've had fails with gnomes. I still have not successfully made one. So she thought she was so funny sending me these saying I should make a gnome. So I've got all of them. And what I did is I cut off the ends of the like curvy ones, and I was thinking like, here, I'll take this little piece off, and then I was like, oh nope, don't do that. And I'm gonna paint them with this chalk paint from Folk Art in the coloring Whispering Wheat. Let that dry. I think I did a good 2.5 or so coats, and we're gonna go over some of them a little different. This one we're gonna do the antique wax, and then the other ones we're going to go back with that moss. So we're just doing a couple of each like that. And my idea was to make them kind of look like flower bulbs. I don't know what flower bulbs they're supposed to be, but they're flower bulbs in this instance at least. So this was just kind of what I could come up with. I mean, I think I probably could have tried to make them look like fruit, or who knows. There's just all kinds of different things. This was probably my most challenging one to try and figure out something to do that fit in with stuff. So yeah, like I said, this one we're going to just go ahead and do in the moss. We're just going to go over it, and just like I said, just trying to figure out something to do with these little guys. So you can, you know what, if you have stuff in your stash you don't know what to do with, you'd be surprised how creative you can get. Next, we're using some of these really cute little glass jars, and on this one I was like, oh, I want to put, you know, if I could have found like little pieces of dandelion, I would have probably put that in there. That would have been pretty. But I'm going to use some wildflower seeds that I got from Dollar Tree. I think I got 4 for $1, so I'm going to use those. I'm just going to fill up 2 of my little jars with the flowers. Seeds. This is just like a wildflower bunch. I thought like, oh well, it'll be a little different, and of course they got everywhere. And we're gonna add some of the buttons to the top of my little jars just to give them a little bit extra detail, you know what I mean? I thought it was really cute, little sweet detail. So here's my little, you know, box. First, we're going to start off with one of these rugs from the Dollar Tree, and I went ahead and cut out with my Cricut a stencil for it. This was my first time giving this a try, and you just wait. I was so happy with it. You'll see in just a minute though. So it's just going to be Honey, I'm Home, and it's got some bees in it, and that's pretty much what all of today's projects are like some kind of bee related thing. It was so funny when I first told my husband I was going to do this kind of video. He was like, oh yeah, I get it, because you're Theresa B. And I was like, oh, totally didn't think of it that way, but you're right. That works perfectly. So I was really focusing on getting this stencil vinyl to kind of sit down as best as I could. And then I thought, like, first I was like, well, let me try to go in with a brush. And that didn't work quite so well. So I was like, let me just try to, you know, go in with that. Didn't really work out. And I'm going to end up getting just a little sponge brush. These are from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to pounce all over this. And the paint that I actually used is some Arteza outdoor acrylic paint. So it's specifically made for outside, and I'm hoping that it's going to hold up pretty well. I really liked how thick it was, so it worked really well in that aspect. So I'm going to leave it linked for you below. I got mine off of Amazon. It wasn't sent to me. I bought it myself. But I am going to leave that linked for you below in case you're interested. I bought, I think, like a 30 pack or 24 pack. I can't remember off the top of my head. So this is just the black one that they have, you know, in there in the pack. And I'm going to do that pretty much for the whole thing with the exception of the bee. So what I did is on the bee, I took out the outline part, and you can kind of start to see it here. I took out the outline of the bee first to do that in black, and then I was like, well, I'm going to kind of freehand the other parts of it. And I'll show you in a minute how I ended up doing that, and it worked out really good. So you just, I would probably recommend, I only did 1 layer of the black. I would recommend doing 2. I really wish I had done 2, but I was so excited to get this taken off to see how it looks, and I was really, really impressed that it did not have like hardly any bleeding. And then so once I'm done taking off the main part of the vinyl, I am just going to go in with my little weeding tool and pull off, you know, any of the other stuff, you know, the other little parts that are just making the letters out. And like I said, I was so happy with how this came out. I was like doing my little happy dance off camera, obviously, because you can't see me. But I was just really excited how it turned out. So now, once I take off all of these little pieces to the bee, this is important if you do this project. Make sure you keep the outline, that you initially took off to make the black. We're going to put that back down when we're ready to do all of the other colors. If you decide to do that, I'll show you at the end how it looked both ways, with the color, without the color. So same thing, just pulling off all of that excess stencil and then getting all of the other little pieces. Obviously this little part up in the corner was a lot easier and faster because it didn't have all the letters and all that. So once that's done, like I said, I tried to do it freehand and I was like, you know what, let me put the stencil part like back down. So save that if you decide to do this. I liked it with both ways, like without the color and with the color. So it depends on your vibe, if you're going for more bright stuff, if you're going for more neutral, it kind of is nice that this project can, go either direction. And I was really surprised. This little rug carpet thing from Dollar Tree, it is, I believe, a 16 by 24, and it's really thick. So I really like this. I wish it was a plain one and didn't have any of this like pattern behind it, but I was okay with it. So I used kind of more of like a pointier brush for the yellow part and a little bit flatter brush for the white wings. And what I'd kind of come to see is I like the flat brush, but you definitely want to pick a brush that's a lot denser. And I'm so sorry if you hear that in the background. Of course, the kids cannot play with anything that doesn't require a lot of noise when I'm trying to do a voiceover. So once I was done with that, I do peel off that little bit, and there you can see the difference, the one with the color and the one without. So for the next project, we're going to start off with one of these little wood houses from Dollar Tree. And I removed everything, and I'm going to paint it in this maze chalk paint from Waverly. And then on the edges, I'm going to do the color ink from Waverly. And this one, of course, is just home is where my honey is. Isn't that adorable? I couldn't get over it. So we're just going to apply that, of course, onto our house. Now the house itself, the yellow, I want to say that's probably about 3 coats, and then it's only 1 coat on the black because that paint, I tell you what, that stuff is just there. And next we're just going to, of course, going to add some twine, because when you don't know what to do, you just add twine to it. So we're just going to kind of roll that around a few times, and then I'm just going to go ahead and give it a quick little snip. And I wasn't sure, I was like, should I do a little bow? Should I do a little something else? So I'm going to add this little bee charm. I want to say I got it from Michael's. It was like $2.50 maybe. So I think it's a cute little touch. And then once we've gotten that secured, I'm just going to go ahead and glue down the twine on the back side of the house, making sure it's good and secure. And we're just going to give it a quick snip, and we will just move on. And I couldn't find my little tool, so I just like, oh, just smudge it with this. And it needed a little something else, so we're just going to add a little bit of greenery and just one tiny little flower, just to give it a little pop of, something to break up that yellow. Because this video, these projects, you will see there is a lot of yellow. So at first I thought just the 1 leaf, then I decided, let me give it an extra leaf. So here is the final project. It's super pretty, super cute. I love it. I just love everything from this video. All right, so I've got this little block of wood. It's roughly like 5 1/4 or so, wide and tall because it's square. And I did stain it with, and I will list the color of the stain for you below. And I'm going to add this Be Kind with a couple little bee accents here. And I'm just doing the same kind of thing with, just stamping the same little applicator that I used before. And I've got the same color chalk paint, ink from Waverly. And I think that these are all just so sweet and cute and everything. They're perfect for spring, and just can't get over it. I cannot get over this whole theme of the videos. You guys will have to let me know, do you like these videos that are more like one overall theme? Do you like things a little bit different so you can kind of pick and choose what you like? And I'm going to do my best as well on all of these decals. I designed a lot of them, so if I can link them for you below or show you where I'm going to get it, I will do that. And here's the satisfying moment. I had to zoom it in for you, of peeling off the stencil and getting it nice and crisp. And I just had to share that with you because it's so satisfying. It's so weird, but it's so satisfying. Tell me below, do you guys like to do that too? Is it really satisfying for you when it's nice and it's clean? So after that, we're just gonna, of course, go through and I'll zoom you. You know, I had to turn up my light so I could see it a little easier. I'm just gonna go through and peel up all of the extra little pieces of the vinyl, just to, you know, make my letters, you know, look like the letters they're supposed to be. So I almost thought, and I should have done it, I was thinking about putting like a word count in here of every time I say the word B. And then I decided I wanted to distress this a little bit. Originally, I wanted to distress the black part, but when I did it across the top part of the wood, the black almost looked like it smeared a little bit. And I mean, that paint had been on there for, you know, at least a day or two. So I was afraid to do it. I'm going to take these two new little things of cotton twine from Dollar Tree, yellow and black, because I need to, you know, tie it all in with all the other projects today. And I'm just going to, of course, give it, you know, a nice little spot to sit on the back. And we'll just spin it around a couple of times. I think I did like 4, and I was trying to do almost like a little bit of a like twisting it a little so you could see some of the black, some of the yellow. I think it really stood out really nicely. And then I was like, well, let me do a little knot so it has somewhere to hang. And then I think eventually I just kind of gave up. Yeah, I just gave up. I was like, no, it's not going to happen today. So let's just glue it on and it'll be just fine. And I was like, well, of course, I need a little bow. So we're just going to take a few, you know, just a couple inches of the ribbon, cotton twine, whatever we're going to call it today, both colors. And I'm just going to do just a cute little shoestring bow, nothing particularly fancy. You guys know I'm not the greatest when it comes to bows. So do that, and I'll just trim off the excess, and I'm going to glue it down, make it kind of look like it's what was, you know, holding it all together. But I wasn't done yet. I had my husband make this for me. He has a 3D printer, so it's just really cute. And he has the file. I'll link it for you below in case anybody has a 3D printer. You could make it too. Here it is, all finished. It's so freaking cute. I can't get over it. I can't get over the cuteness today. All right, so we got these little blocks from Target in the dollar spot. There were 3 of them for $3, so I was happy with it. I just did a full coat of, like, probably 3 coats again of this yellow. And I'm going to take this little honeycomb and I'm just going to find a good spot. I was kind of debating, like, obviously I was debating because I keep moving it. I was debating on where I wanted to put it, if I wanted to put it at an angle, if I wanted to keep it straight. I kind of ended up leaving it pretty much straight-ish, maybe a tiny bit of a tilt. And I am using transfer tape. I know most of the time people are like, oh, you don't really need to use it for stencil vinyl. But I was like, how in the world do you use stencil vinyl without transfer tape and keep all the little pieces in the middle? So I wasn't going to attempt it. Who knows? You guys will have to let me know. Is there a way to do that? So I am going to just go in with that Adirondack white paint, and here we go. Another moment of satisfying, you know, paint peeling backing. I'm just going to, except I'm not going to show you every little bit of it coming off. But there's the outside part, and then I do, of course, remove all of the little octagons in there as well. And now I'm going to distress it. It was a little too stark white. Now, if I'd made them a little thinner, I think I definitely could have gotten away with it, but I didn't want it to be so like abundantly white, and I needed a little bit of distressing going on. So I get my handy dandy finger sander. I got it at Target. I'm going to list that for you below. And then I take my handy dandy ladybug vacuum. You know, it's not a bee, but we'll have to forgive it. And we're just going to do this stencil on here, happy as can be. And I totally didn't notice it, but one of the wings wasn't white. I ended up going back and painting it. So I hand cut like those little white parts for the wings. I know I could do it layering on my Cricut, but I just ended up doing it by hand. I figured that was going to probably be a little faster. So here it is. See, I painted it. I fixed it. It's so cute though. Again, so cute. All right, guys, you know how I am with gnomes. If you've been watching me, I'm not very good at them. So for this one, I started off with a gnome. My husband's son, so funny. He's like, you didn't make a gnome. You cheated. You just dressed a gnome. So I'm going to add some of these river rocks to the bottom because this is just a leftover ornament from Christmas. I have a couple more of these, so you never know. You might see more gnomes in the future now that I've I've decided I can do it as long as I have something to start with. So next, of course, we're just going to seal them shut with our glue gun. And I could have done it with like some needle and thread. It probably would have looked a little bit nicer and a little more finished, but who wants to get that out? So I am just going to use my glue gun just to seal them all up. And then I have this little bit of striped fabric. It's really not even fabric. It came from a little skirt from Dollar Tree in the kids section. I bought two, don't worry. I bought one for my daughter and one for this project. So she didn't feel like, you know, I was butchering her little costume. So I cut a piece bigger than I think I needed, because I've done that in the past and ended up, you know, having to scrap it because it just didn't want to work. And then I'm just going to kind of do a gluing all around, you know, where the hat goes, basically. And I actually had to iron this little thing too, because it was just all wrinkled, you know, in the packaging and all that. So I'm going to just start draping it along, and then as I go, I'll start to actually trim it down. See, like now it's like, okay, let me go ahead and trim it down. I think I'm safe. And so I'll do that. Trimmed it down, and now I'm going to trim the other side. I'm like, okay, I'm safe. I'm going to trim down the top. And I'm not really worried about making a really nice clean line on, you know, these. I'm going to make it more of like a faux seam in the back anyways. It's very loose interpretation of a seam. So I'll fold it over just to try to make it look a little bit nicer, and just basically just keep adding glue wherever you can, wherever makes the most sense to try and hold it all together. This poor little guy is just held together by river rocks and glue and hot glue sticks. But it's okay. He'll end up really cute. You'll see in a minute. And just basically continue that all along the way. And I'm going to just kind of fast forward you through just so we can get to the reveal of this little guy. I do want to show you how I finish off the hat. I'm basically just folding over and kind of bringing it to like one little spot in the center-ish area of his head area. So we'll just basically keep doing that, and I'm folding it kind of as I go, and then here he is. It's kind of skipped through it, but you get the basic idea. So now, of course, our little bee gnome needed to have some wings. So this is just a little headband. It's the same like collection. I cut out the wings, and then we're going to glue it all on his back to give him some nice little wings. And then don't worry, again, I have an extra set that my daughter has. That way she didn't feel like I stole her stuff. Because if I bring it home and it's a toy or girly, you forget about it. She thinks it's hers. So we just add the wings, and then there he is. He's so cute. Isn't he adorable? Little bee gnome. And like I said, today is a giveaway. This little bee necklace is actually from Project Honeybee, and their proceeds actually go to help saving bees. You know, you adopt one, and I'll leave their site below for you as well. And the winner of today's giveaway, you are going to get that bee necklace as well as a $20 gift card to Dollar Tree. So just all you have to do is just leave a comment below on my video and a comment on Liz's video. I'll have it linked for you as well. So let's go ahead and get back into the crafts. So next project, we are going to take one of these little laundry signs from Dollar Tree, and we're just going to pop off the back of it. Be very careful. There are several pins, nail things in it, so make sure you get those out. I'm just going to pull all of those out of the frame with my, you know, little I cannot talk. Little tweezer plier things. And those are going to be linked for you below. There's a set of 3. They're really great for these little projects when they're really, you know, like fine spots that you're trying to get into. So then once we've gotten rid of all of them, I believe there were like 6 or 7. It's like so funny how Dollar Tree is about securing some things and not others. Because like that, whoop, there it goes. No, I don't even need to use a heat gun. So I'm going to use this printable here. I'm going to have that linked for you below, of where you can go and download it. I'm going to probably have that in a Google Drive folder, so you can go over there, check it out, download it. It's just a printable. This way you can make some projects like I did. I'm going to have as many of them as I can in that same folder. So this was just kind of cute. It was just a, you know, be happy, be kind, be humble. I just really like the idea of it. So I just take a big glue stick, put it on the actual backing. I did sand the backing a little bit just because it had some rough spots from where those nails were holding it in. Then just to put it back in our frame and just do a little bit of hot glue in the corners, and we're just gonna plop it on in there. I liked the color of the outside frame, so I didn't even want to change that. I just loved that darker natural look to it. So I'm just gonna get out some extra glue, and here it is, all finished. Again, it'll be linked for you below. Now we're going to do a beaded garland. These are just some round beads. I've already painted them, as you can tell, and I'm going to go through and add some antiquing on the yellow beads. Now, if you want to reduce some of the yellowness, just use the natural wood instead of the yellow. I thought about it, but then I ended up painting it. I've got this little cutout I've got from the Farmer's Market calendar from Dollar Tree. It's one of the ones off of the back, and I just put it on a little piece of wood. My camera didn't want to like me very much at the moment, so it didn't record it for whatever reason. And I just punched a hole in it just using a little, Dremel tool to get a hole in there. And then we're just gonna feed our twine through it. I was smart about it this time. I made sure I put some tape on the edge of my twine, left a little bit of slack, otherwise your wood beads don't have anywhere to really move. And then we're gonna get another one of those charms, and we're going to use that on there too. So at first I tried just to do some of the antique wax on it, and then I was like, no, it needs a little something else. So I'm going to use a little bit of the wax and a little bit of the mineral colored chalk paint from Waverly, just to give it a little age. I mean, I aged the beads. The bead couldn't be super shiny and new, so I went ahead and did that, and I'm just going to kind of wipe a little bit of away, maybe add a little more antique wax, just kind of work with it until it gets to the point where you like it, or you can leave it completely silver. It's completely up to you. It's your choice. It's your project. So I'll just string that through, and I'll just do a nice little knot, hold it in place. I doubled it because I wasn't sure how secure one knot would be, so I'll cinch it down and get it kind of in a good spot, trim it off. And here you go, all finished, really cute and pretty, just adding a little more neutral tones, to our abundantly yellow area. So I have this little bee honey dabber that my husband made off his printer again, and I painted it in that same chalk paint and did some black on the edge. And now I'm going to do a little bit of antiquing. Now, initially when I put it in there, I did glue it just to make sure it doesn't come off, and I'm just adding some of that antique wax from Folk Art, or you can use the Waverly one if you have that one. We'll just kind of go over that quite a bit. It just depends on what you want to do. If you want to leave it kind of more like a natural color, that would be really pretty. If you don't have anybody to give you it from a 3D printer, they do make it from Hobby Lobby too. And then as a little added detail, I'm just going to put on this little bead that my husband made, again from his 3D printer, and I hand painted. It's just a cute little touch, just to kind of finish that one off. Now we're going to take this ball mason jar, just a small one, cover it in, you guessed it, yellow paint. And now we're going to add some extra details. I took this is kind of like the leftovers from one of the stencils earlier, as you can tell, since it's all black, and I'm just going to put it in just a couple of places, trying to make sure that it's really adhered to it. And I just went over it with some black paint. I messed up in a spot, but that's okay because we're going to antique it. So I'm just going to take my finger sander again and just kind of give a little bit of distressing and kind of give it a little spots here and there. And we'll go over this whole thing with the antique wax, kind of going with the same look as I gave the honey dabber. Honey dabber? You guys will have to tell me, what exactly is that little thing called? I was like, oh, it's a honeycomb, but it's not a honeycomb because that's the little thing the bees live in. So let me know down in the description box or down in the comments if you know what it's called. Next, we're going to take that black cotton twine again, and I'm just going to put it all around the top part. I thought about painting like stripes on there, but I'm not capable of making straight lines, especially not free-handed straight lines. I'm shocked I was able to do it at all on that little bee that I have on there, on the little honey dabber thing. And even with painter's tape, I was like, this is just not going to happen today, so let's not try. So I was like, well, if I add a little bit of black twine to it, that'll kind of look like a stripe, like a bee. So I was like, hey, that's kind of cute. And then I just did a quick little finger bow. I would give you like advice on how to do it, but it would probably be horrible advice because I'm really bad at doing bows. So I would say your best luck is to find another person to show you how to do it because it's definitely not me. So I'm going to just trim off the edges. I didn't want a tail on it. And here it is, all finished. Super cute. All right, on to our last project. This is from Hobby Lobby, this little rolling pin. I'm going to cover it with the white, or not the white, goodness gracious, with the yellow and the black. And then I'm going to add my little decal on there that just is a bee happy. And I just thought it was the sweetest little thing. So I'm going to just add that on there. It's just, you know, the happy with a little swiggle and the bee, and it's just so stinking cute. I don't know what it is about bees with me this year. I just think they're all so cute. So we're just going to add that onto our little rolling pin. And I know they make these in other places too, so sometimes you can get them a little bit bigger as well. Just kind of depends on what you're going for. These might end up on like a tiered tray or just as a shelf sitter. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure where they're going in my house, but they're going somewhere. Here it is all finished up. It's just super cute. So first we're going to start off with some of these wood bunnies from Dollar Tree, and I painted all 3 of them in Folk Art Whispering Wheat. And then I am going to give them a little bit of a shadowing effect, and I don't pay any attention to this paint that's already on there and the paint next to it because I tried something different, I didn't like it, and I just ended up going over it with the Folk Art and Antique Wax because it was really weird. The paint combination I made made it look purple, so that wasn't going to work for me on this particular project, at least. Nothing to say there's anything wrong with purple, but not with this one. I don't want my bunnies to have bruised ears and feet. So once I've done that, I'm going to take some of these little Scrabble tiles. I got these from Walmart back at like Valentine's Day. And we're going to spell out every bunny welcome. And when you're doing this, make sure you use some wax paper instead of a piece of Post-it note. Sometimes I just grab whatever is nearby to, you know, put something on, paint, used to dab paint off. You know what it is. It's just like whatever's nearby that you can use. But I am just going to glue all of those letters together. And I'm thinking I'm showing you every single one of them. I'm not really sure why I thought that was a good idea, but that's okay. You get to see the cuteness that are these little letters. I know they sell them in various other places, but I got, like I said, I got these at Walmart right around Valentine's Day. I saw Savannah from Savvy Crafts with Savannah, goodness. And she had some of them, and I thought they were too darn cute to pass up, so I'm glad I got them. And I just barely had enough ease. I used every last one. For a second there, I thought I was going to have to like draw an extra line on an F, but I was able to find all the letters I needed. And who knows what I could make with the rest of those letters now. So once we've gotten all of those together, we're going to actually paint this little crate from Dollar Tree with some more antique wax. You know how it is, guys. We love our antique wax. And I will also be using like the baby wipe method. I wanted it to be a little bit darker. I didn't want it to come too close to the color of the bunnies. So when I was doing that, I was like, well, I'm still going to use my baby wipe because it's so much faster and easier. But I don't want to wipe away as much of the stain, if that makes any sense to you. So I do not bother doing the inside because we are going to fill the inside with some stuff that's very Easter-esque or spring-esque, depending on your preference. And then once we're done with this, eventually, and I thought about whitewashing it too and kind of just decided I just was going to leave it the wood color. So now that this guy is done, we're going to take our bunnies and we are going to start to put them together. Now this idea kind of came from Chic on the Cheap's channel. She did something similar with some pumpkins, which I did towards the very, very beginning of my YouTube world. And it was really cute. And even my husband was like, oh, I liked those pumpkins. So I wanted to do the same thing with the bunnies. So we're just going to glue them all together. And on here, I actually used this Gorilla Glue. It's very similar to E6000. It sets up a lot faster than E6000. Like it doesn't require that 24-hour, wait for it to hold on to anything, but it still needed the hot glue. So I am going to still do that. And I'm sorry, this is going to be some wonky angles and stuff because, you know, the bunnies are kind of big. If you hadn't seen them yet in store, they're a little bit big. So once we've gotten them all glued together, I'm going to go ahead and add my letters. Now, because I did this at such a strange angle, the first one, it kind of ends up like not even, but not angled. You know what I mean? Like it's that weird in between. So I was like, oh, well, we're just going to go with it. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the same way though. I'm going to use the Gorilla Glue in combination with the hot glue and then get any excess glue that kind of seeped out around it. So I do that for each one of them. And now we're going to add our yardstick kind of thing. So I'm using a mop handle from Dollar Tree and I broke off the end of it and I kind of bent it around with pliers, and it was such a weird way of doing it. I couldn't really get it within the camera angle, so you'll have to take my word for it. If you have a pair of pliers and you buy one of these, it's really easy because you don't even bother trying to saw it if you're doing something like this. So I am doing some, on this one I am doing E6000 just because I wanted, I don't know, I wanted it to not hold as fast, if that makes any sense. But because I wanted to be able to move it around a little. And then we're going to take, there you go, okay. It's like, am I taking that glue gun? Am I not taking that one? We're going to take the glue gun and we're just going to coat that mop handle like as thoroughly as possible. Oh, and by the way, I did attach my little crate to the bottom of my bottom bunny, same way I did with the letters. So I realized I didn't film that part, so I needed to tell you. So once that has done and I've gotten the handle mostly secured, I do add some glue on the side of it. And to add a little bit more security and a little bit of cuteness, I'm going to add a bit of twine to wrap around his neck. I'm going to make it a little bow tie. Don't worry, it's not like he's just going to have a random piece of twine around him. But I am going to use that to kind of hold on to that handle as well, just because I was like, well, I don't know that the glue, you know, that obviously the E6000 hasn't dried yet, and I want to make sure that that guy is secure. So I'll put down some hot glue to hold that twine in place a little bit, and I'll probably even, now that I'm thinking about it, go back and add some more glue on top of it too. So, and I'm going to use these little embellishments. I'm going to paint the eggs, use some stuff like that for the basket, and there it is. So stinking cute, I can't help though. So next one we're going to move on to is we're going to take one of these little wood box things from Dollar Tree and paint it with plaster from Waverly. And now I'm going to just draw on my lines. And I do a really good job keeping them straight until the very last one, of course, right? Isn't that the way of it? So I'm just using my ruler, lining it up with the edge. And you guys know how I am with lines. I'm not very good at them. So of course, it's like I did such a good job, I think, on the first ones. And then this one right here, I was like, well, let me make it off a little bit as far as, you know, not being all the way the same size. And of course it's a little slanted, but that's all right. It's going to be at the bottom, so hopefully it's not as noticeable. I'm going to go in with the same plaster colored paint and go over the lines a little bit, just because I want to, I don't really want to say camouflage, but you know what I mean. I want them to dull down a little bit. And I'm also going to take my finger sander. I'll have that little guy linked for you below. It's from Target, that I found it at least. And I'm just going to kind of scrape off some of it off of those lines. A couple of spots looked really dark, like the black Sharpie part looked pretty dark. So, and I didn't do anything to the sides as far as like paint, but I am just going to go ahead and rough it up a little bit. And just so you know, oh, there's my little ladybug. I did sand off that thing to start off with. So I'm going to put down my decal. No need to see that. And I've got another one. This is to make a little sign for a bunny to hold. It says, "Here, bunny, bunny, bunny." I thought it was funny. So I can't help myself sometimes. So I'm just going to take that. That was actually just a piece of one of the little tags, and I just cut off the edge. So I am going to use this little basket I have painted from a previous DIY, and it is just a black matte spray paint. So we're going to glue the back part of the sign down onto that rim. Hold on to it for just a minute because you want your glue to set up. And I'm guessing, I didn't try it out, mind you, but I'm guessing that that is probably not enough to hold on to it. So I add another layer of glue, and obviously you can see it drips all over the place. And then I'm going to add just a really small skewer to it to kind of add, just give it some more area to hold on to, really. Hold it just for a minute, and then I'm going to go ahead and lay it down, and I'm going to try to get some more things to secure it. So I'm really worried that it's not going to stay. And then, of course, this glue stick was too big, or glue gun was too big to fit in that little spot. So I'm just going to add some glue to a thicker dowel and put it on the bottom side. Obviously, that doesn't look real cute, but I'm not too concerned about it because that is on the underside of it. You really won't see it from the angle that you're going to look at this basket. So we're just going to glue it in there, and I'm going to add some more glue on top for additional security because we're just gluing the heck out of this thing. And see, it's kind of holding still, it's holding on, but I'm still afraid it's going to end up toppling over. So I'm just going to add another piece of wood. I'm going to just add this piece of paint stir stick that I cut down using my miter shears. I'm going to link those for you below as well. So now we've got the basket done. I was trying to figure out how to put it down. I'm going to start to work on the rest. And as you can see, it needs some weight in the basket. So I have some rocks in there. I know, so strange. I'm going to go ahead and put some glue down on this little galvanized bunny. He's from another sign off of Dollar Tree. He's going to be holding this lovely little sign for his, bunny mate or something. I don't know. I don't know why I came up with that little story in my mind. I was like, oh, he's trying to attract another bunny. He needs a girlfriend bunny. Or a boyfriend bunny. I'm really not sure what he is. I should probably add a bow somewhere to depict whether he's a boy or a girl bunny. All right, so back to the craft. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work on placement for this little guy, and I want to still be able to see my words. Obviously, I mean, you go to the trouble of putting words on something, you want to be able to see them. And by the way, that font is from DaFont. It's called Magnolia. It's super cute. And so I'm going to start filling up my basket. Pretty simple. I was originally going to make a carrot and it turned out horrible. So I'm just going to put these ones that I got from the dollar spot at Target. They're really cute. I grabbed every color they had and they're adorable. Isn't it adorable though? I mean, come on, how cute is that? So we're going to actually start out with some pumpkins from Dollar Tree. I paint all three of them in plaster from Waverly. And I did sand them down too. I sanded around, kind of rounding out those sharper edges to give them more of an egg shape-ish. I know they're not really egg-shaped, but they're rustic and they're primitive. So that's where I was going with it. I cut out these stencils off of my Cricut. They're just a, little stencil, or not a stencil, but they're a thing that's available on Cricut Design Space. I'll link it for you below if you have their access there. Not, they're free if you have the access, if you pay for it, you know what I mean. But I'm going to just put them all down, and I don't know why I was so particular on this one. I tried to really fix it down. I taped around where any of the little dots were, and I think what ended up making it, I don't end up using a little sponge brush. I do end up using a regular brush, but I probably could have skipped this. So if you make these, you can probably skip this. I was actually looking for stencils from Dollar Tree that actually had different patterns and stuff to use, and I couldn't find any, so I made my own. So I'm going to start off on the very first one. We're using this kind of the same colors that we used on the first project's eggs, and this is just going to be the lavender color from Waverly. I don't recall the exact name of it. I will link it for you below, or not link it, but I'll list it for you. If you're ever curious about the paint colors or supplies or anything like that, I always have them listed at the very least, or a lot of times if it's an Amazon thing, I'll link it for you as well, a lot of my tools and all that. You guys know I love my tools, so I link them for you below. If it's an Amazon link, it's typically an affiliate link, and I certainly appreciate if you guys use it. If you don't, it's not a big deal. It doesn't cost anything extra for you. So with that little disclaimer out of the way, like I said, I'm just kind of dabbing at these little spots. I'm trying really hard not to brush it because I'm trying to obviously keep it from bleeding over into the bottom part. And now we are going to go through the longest process of taking off a stencil. This thing gave me so much problems. I taped it down in way too many places. And it's funny, I still ended up with a few little bleeds. So not too bad, but just a few. So like I said, longest process ever. So I'm just going to skip ahead and get off the majority of it off camera. And now we'll start to actually peel it back and get a little bit of that satisfying moment of peeling off painter's tape and stencil vinyl. And like I said, it's just like this thing was on there. And like I said, I still got bleeds, which was crazy. So I'm glad that I made sure that the paint was mostly dry, because otherwise I was afraid I probably would have ruined it if I had done it when it was really wet. So here's that one all finished. I did the other two as well, but I'm just showing you this one for now. And I'm going to add just a little bit of distressing on the edges of this because I am going to make this one a reversible pumpkin, not a pumpkin, egg. See, even I still think they look like pumpkins a little bit. But anyways, I'm going to make this a reversible egg. And so I'm just going to, of course, add the antique wax all along the other side. This is going to be kind of like one side's really traditional Easter, one side's a lot more neutral farmhouse Easter. If I make everything like neutral farmhouse, my kids and my husband will get upset. They're like, look, this isn't the right colors for this season or holiday. So I cut this little strip of ribbon. I got that one from Joann's, and it's really pretty. It's like this dusty pink rose color. So I just went ahead and cut it and glued it down to our egg. And now I'm going to use a couple of pieces of a floral pick. So I've got these little leaves. I went ahead and just arranged those, and I'm going to add just a little sprig of lavender. And it was still missing something, so I am going to add a little bit of a jute bow as well. Now, when I make my little jute bows, I glue them together. I don't use the twine to try and get it to stay. I just go in it with some glue. So, and of course, it's like this thing didn't want to work out for me, so I had to like chop it off and start again. And did I show you starting again? I thought I did, but oh, yep, here we go. See, I'm making the bow right now off camera because, of course, who wouldn't want to watch that? So here it is, since I had to chop off that other piece, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that little bow in, and someday it'll be done. There we go, all finished. So here is the final look between both sets of eggs. I think they're really cute. I actually kind of like the colorful ones. They're kind of fun. So on this next project, we are going to start off with one of these window panes and a bunny. So we do a coat of the folk art wood tint in walnut, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of dry brushing of that plaster color from Waverly. I focused in a little bit more than I probably should have on the ears, and I wanted to give a nice little dusting of it onto the tail because, of course, bunnies have fluffy tails, so everybody knows that. Gosh. All right, so once that's all finished, he needed a little something extra. And I'm just going to take a couple of pieces off of this rub-on transfer set from Dollar Tree. Obviously, you can see I've already used the reef. I actually did one of these little bunnies with a reef on him on a previous video. I will link it for you. It was a really cute project. I'll definitely I suggest checking it out if you haven't already. So we're just going to put that down there. I like to use the end of this little scraper. I know it's a very technical use for this. That's not even a craft tool. That little thing I use to push down my hot glue, and it is actually a face mask applicator, I think. You know how it is. We crafters, we find all kinds of different uses for different things. So I'm going to put a little bee on the middle. I don't know. It might be for Theresa B. It might be for Bunny, but you know, you just make up your own thing, you know, if you end up making this project. So now that all those are on there, we're going to go ahead and put him back on his little window. And I actually did a coating of the antique wax on the window just to kind of bring out some more of that faux wood grain. It's definitely got like a little bit of a grain to it, even though it's plastic. I mean, and it's like cheap plastic. So be careful with that thing. Don't scrape it up because it'll scrape up really easy. And now it of course needs a stand, so we're just going to add some hot glue. And this is just a little thing I had left over from another project, I think from Christmas time, so. And I'm just going to make sure that it is on there mostly straight at least. And here it is, all finished. He's really cute. It's really, really cute. So next project we're doing, don't blink, it's going to be really fast. I'm just going to put on this stencil. I'll link it for you below. I made it on my Cricut. And then I'm just basically putting this one on and another one. These little blocks are from Dollar Tree as well. And here they are, a little Ray Dunn inspired project for you. If you have made it this far, you are absolutely a rock star. This was such a fun video to put together to take a look at all of my favorite DIYs from this spring and Easter season. I hope that you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making everything. And I really am so thankful for each and every one of you. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. And I will see you again next time.